Sid Vicious had it all, though most fans remember his botched WCW interviews and injuries later in his career. He was someone Vince McMahon wanted from WCW and signed him in 1991 with the promise of giving him Hulk Hogan's spot. WWF fans were at awe. His powerbomb was greater than the leg drop, and the young man even towered over Hulk Hogan, who would be his opponent at WrestleMania 8. Unfortunately, his run didn't last long, as shortly after WrestleMania, Sid would quit the WWF only to return in 1995. The issues with Sid at the time was that he liked being a heel, loved softball, and wasn't a fan of the WWF environment. While we could go with a babyface run with Sid, which has some interesting possibilities like a Justice League of heroes at Survivor Series, instead we present an alternate booking with a heel Sid winning the Royal Rumble and having a title run. At the Royal Rumble, Ric Flair throws out Hulk Hogan to a pop with Sid's help as Sid quickly throws out Flair to capture the WWF Championship. Hogan, furious with the loss, runs back in and starts to argue with Sid instead of congratulating him. Sid shoves Hogan and WWF officials run in to stop it. Sid cuts a promo backstage saying that Hogan ruined the greatest moment of his life, but he is happy to be the new WWF champion. On Primetime Wrestling, the WrestleMania 8 press conference takes place with the top challengers who could be facing Sid for the WWF title. Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, The Undertaker, and Randy Savage. Sid on the podium says that this press conference is unnecessary and that he believes Ric Flair to be the right contender. However, President Jack Tunney declares that the challenger will be Hulk Hogan. Sid looks shocked as Hogan cuts a promo saying that he wants his title back and that Hulkamania will run wild on Sid. Sid cuts a promo congratulating Hulk Hogan, but says that he'll do whatever it takes to stop him. At Saturday night's main event on February 8th, Sid Justice and Hulk Hogan take on Ric Flair and The Undertaker in a tag match. Sid and Hogan make peace, but during the match, Sid abandons Hogan, with Beefcake coming in to save Hulk for the DQ. At house shows, Sid would go from facing Taker and Flair to facing Randy Savage and Roddy Piper. On Wrestling Challenge, Sid appeared on The Barbershop to explain why he abandoned Hulk Hogan, and he cuts a promo about how Hogan has been the man for years, and it's time for the ruler and master of the world to be the man. Beefcake says that he believes Hogan will recapture the title for a 5th time. Sid suddenly attacks Beefcake, throwing him into the set and destroying it. Harvey Whippleman becomes Sid's new manager. Meanwhile, Hogan has an interview with Vince McMahon and declares that he will retire if he loses at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania 8, Sid and Hogan meet in the main event, and at the end, Hogan manages to kick out of the powerbomb and hit the leg drop only for Sid to actually kick out. Hogan is in shock. There is no run-in from Papa Shango here. Sid lands the powerbomb twice. Sid wants to land a 3rd powerbomb. The referee looks to stop Sid and end the match, but Sid pushes him down. The Ultimate Warrior returns and rushes out to make the save, clotheslining Sid to the outside. The referee calls for a DQ in favor of Hogan. Hogan and Warrior celebrate that night. Backstage, Sid cuts a promo saying that the WWF is biased, that Warrior had no business being in the ring, that Hulk Hogan should retire, and that Sid is the real winner of the match. Harvey Whippleman promises that he will make a formal complaint that Hulk has to retire. This gives a reason for Hulk to not appear until 1993. Where Harvey Whippleman will have Giant Gonzalez after Hulk. On the UK Rampage April 19th special, Sid defends his title against The Undertaker by countout. Sid would feud with The Undertaker and The Ultimate Warrior on house shows. Harvey Whippleman also becomes manager of Kamala. Throughout May and June on Superstars and Primetime Wrestling, Sid would defend his title against Sergeant Slaughter, Tito Santana, Coco Beware, and Jim Duggan. By the beginning of July, the Ultimate Warrior makes a challenge to Sid for the WWF title at SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium. Things get heated up as Sid would interfere in one of Warrior's matches on Superstars and attack Warrior during a backstage interview. At the SummerSlam Spectacular on August 23rd, Warrior faced Kamala only for Sid to run in and cost him the match by countout. At SummerSlam on August 29th, Sid successfully defends the WWF title against the Warrior after he smashes Warrior's head over with a brick on the outside and powerbombs Warrior to retain the title. Backstage, after Ric Flair loses his match against Savage, Sid and Flair get into a heated argument when Sid calls Flair a loser and Flair gets into a brawl with him. Flair starts to cut promos in the weeks ahead about how he deserved to be the WWF champion since the Royal Rumble, and that he could take on Sid any day of the week. Harvey Whippleman comes out during a promo to try to make peace between the two. Flair slaps Harvey silly to a pop from the crowd and gives him the figure 4. Flair becomes a tweener. Sid accepts a challenge at the Survivor Series. At Saturday night's main event on November 19th, Sid defends the WWF title against Randy Savage, winning clean with a powerbomb. though Razor Ramon had attacked Savage early on backstage. Sid cuts a backstage promo saying that Flair couldn't beat Savage and that there is no way he would beat him at Survivor Series. At the Survivor Series on November 25th, Ric Flair sweeps Sid down and manages to have his foot on the ropes to pin Sid and capture the WWF Championship. This enrages Sid, who snaps and attacks Flair and the referee. During an episode of Primetime, Sid attacks Flair's executive consultant, Mr. Perfect, who had turned face and starts a feud on house shows with him. On the first Monday Night Raw on January 11th, Sid comes out to a promo and makes a challenge to Ric Flair for a rematch for the title at the Royal Rumble, and says that he is willing to put his career on the line for a shot. Flair, who comes out and as nuts as he is, says he will also put his career on the line to show that he's the man. At the Royal Rumble 1993 on January 24th, Sid recaptures the WWF title for a second time with the powerbomb on Flair, retiring him from the WWF. That same night, Bret, the Hitman Hart, manages to throw out Razor Ramon during the Rumble to win it and get a title shot at WrestleMania. This begins a long feud between Bret and Sid for the title, with Bret as the underdog. Sid cuts a promo at the WrestleMania 9 press conference on how Bret doesn't stand a chance and that he would respect Bret if he gave up his shot at the title, while Bret refuses and says that he has what it takes and that everyone remembers who he beat at the previous WrestleMania when all odds were against him. At WrestleMania 9, Bret the Hitman Hart manages to capture the WWF Championship by placing the sharpshooter on Sid 3 times and finally forcing him to submit. Sid leaves the WWF shortly thereafter. What did you think of this run for Sid? Comment, like, subscribe, and thank you for watching In the Plot.